everybody. It is your boy, Tewtytron, and also Bizarro. Say hello, Bizarro.
Goodbye.
There it is. So we talked to Hate Mail and some others, and we asked them, like, is it okay if we, like, kind of chime in every now and again and do, like, some content for you guys? And they were like, abso-freaking-lutely. They really like it, I guess. So we're gonna do it.
Let's do it.
Right. So we'll try and do this like twice a month ish, maybe more, maybe less. We're not gonna have like a set schedule because we don't want to add another thing to our schedules. But we're here for a good time, I guess, and we're hopefully gonna bring the good time to you. But today we wanted to talk about raids because those recently ended. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the pros first, Bizarro.
Sounds good.
What do you think were like some of the pros for this raid?
Well, I mean, I like raids in general because you get lots of resources.
True.
You know, as you're climbing up the milestone ladder, I I don't see a bad milestone that's there. Maybe some of them are, which you got to understand. I would figure they're going to stagger some of the ones that are maybe not the most valuable resources right at the beginning. Right. But overall, there are a lot of good resources in the among the milestones.
I felt like the milestones were almost like shadow rewards. Like, I know that it like notified you every time you reached one, but like,
yeah,
I wasn't necessarily because it was such a hard and long grind. Like, I would always just check my inventory or whatever, or like I'd go to a random character's page to check out them or like add new gear to them or whatever, and I would notice that my legendary essence like shot way up, or like my XP meta agent is like I have 1,000 more of them now, and I'm like, oh, where did that come from? And I guess I was like, oh, I guess I'm actually gaining stuff from these raids that is actually going to be really helpful in the future. So I really
I agree.
That well.
I remember, I don't remember what I started at for legendary essence, but that's the one thing everybody's usually short on. And I ended up with like 174,000 legendary essence. So
yeah,
I was really happy.
I started out at like 30,000, I think, and I ended at like 127,000. So
nice.
I was quite happy. And that was before I think we got the rewards in the mail. Like that was just from like straight up milestones or something like that.
Yeah.
But I also thought like the drop rate for some of those bigger bosses, maybe in the last few days I didn't really care to see those like 5 million worth bosses, but like the ones that were easily killable by ourselves were very nice to have in those like in like the second or third day.
I agree.
I enough like point value to like actually climb at a decent pace.
I think everybody really loved level 90 Alan Scott.
Yeah.
Fan favorite.
Yes, absolutely. And because of that higher drop rate, I feel like we got to the 500 million point. You made it to 500 million, right?
I did not. I made it to 300 million, and then my eyes started to cross, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And plus I wanted to focus on alliance bosses for my alliance.
That's fair. That's a valid point, because your alliance was like second place, right?
Yeah. In fact, we should both give shout outs to our alliance, because I cannot thank my guys enough. They worked so hard. And it was just such a joy to see them working so hard, and I really appreciated it. It was nice to put our name on the map.
Yeah, that's true. I honestly, like, I don't remember where you said you've been top 10 consistently, haven't you?
Yeah, we were third in the first raid, and then I think we dropped to 7th. And then I don't remember if there was another one in there, but we've always been top 10, but this was definitely our highest finish. And I think you at the Owls and us are the only members of the 1 billion club.
True.
And look, I know I'm bragging, but I think I get this chance to brag because
absolutely
I've worked my butt off with this alliance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think UJLA was right behind you with like 30 million less or 300 million. I'm not sure. It was like
It was like 30 million, but they gave us one heck of a fight, and they even overtook us at one point. And then, thanks to an amazing push by all the guys and gals in my alliance, we guys is a non-gendered term right now. Is
I
that
hope so because I
acceptable?
use it all the time.
Okay. So all the guys in my alliance, non-gender specific, did an amazing job. So I'm really proud. I'm a proud alliance papa right now.
Good. I mean, I wish there like was a difference between like second and third place, like gold, silver, bronze medals, but like
Yeah,
there isn't. So I think there isn't, right? It's like 2 through 10 is another reward tier.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with you, but obviously I'm biased. So
Well, because you
yeah,
guys,
the other thing I really appreciated is I heard from like 3 or 4 different owls cheering us on, which was really nice. And you were one of them, and I appreciated that a lot.
yeah, absolutely. Because like UJLA was generally our competitor as the Owls. Like, and by the way, shout out to the Owls because we kicked some. I don't want to curse. But
Yeah, you guys did really
we
good.
kick some butt, and we keep winning these things, and they're great. But UJLA generally puts up quite a big of a fight, and like we were scared at first. They were putting up a really good fight at the beginning of it, and it looked like on that last day or so, they just kind of like decided to like lay off and focus on solo bosses. Um,
Yeah.
we were actually kind of worried about your guys' alliance because we were like, oh crap, we just lost our 100 million lead. We need to like come back and get it again. And I think we ended up with 118 million lead, but
Yeah.
we were
Yeah, we
we
weren't
got a
going to
little
catch
worried
you
there.
guys, but we were definitely playing for pride,
Yeah,
just to get second, and like I said, sort of put our names out there so that people see us, because I see it as a good advertising strategy if I ever
true,
have to recruit again, which I hope that day doesn't come, but
true.
inevitably it will.
We all really like our teams. We all,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I get no joy. I don't go like, when I'm booting somebody. I don't enjoy it like that.
Yeah, that's true. We always joke about booting Prim out of the Owls, but he brings a little quirkiness that sometimes I do enjoy. I'm pretty sure any owl listening is like cringing, but
That's
um,
funny.
whatchamacallit, let's move on to a different topic. I'm
Well,
pretty sure
yeah, let's keep talking about the pros that we were talking about.
yeah, everyone's like, oh, don't want to hear you brag all the time. Um,
Well, we should
so
get a chance every once in a while, as long as we're not always
true,
tooting our horn.
true. I do that quite often. I'm not gonna lie. Um, so as far as like the $25 packs, I'm curious as how many people buy them because I personally think it's a great value. Like, because generally for the $25 packs, right, we get 6,000 gems, 90 character fragments, and like 1,000 legendary essence, which
Yeah.
that's a good deal too. But like for raids, that $25 enables you to get all 70 milestones and like the how many frags is it at the top of the echelon of raids? It was like 200 to 300 fragments depending on where you placed, right?
I don't remember. I know I
Maybe
was
like the
in,
alliance.
I was just below top 100, and I think I got 130.
But that's solo bosses only, right?
Yeah, yeah. So combined, it was 250 frags, I think.
Right. And okay, so that's upper echelon reward tier. But
Yeah.
like you're still gonna get a stack of gems. You're gonna still gonna get like um
The
a
raid
stack of
energy, the
fragments.
alliance boss energy.
Yeah, a potential skin. Like
Yep.
we got those. I forgot to mention that in our notes, but we had. I got that Atrocitus skin, and boy, is it sexy.
Yeah, it looks good.
You got it right.
Unfortunately, I don't use him a lot, but it looks good.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't use Hal, so I didn't buy that skin. I think Hal is like one of the most boring characters in the game. Um, but
You can
like,
insult all the Lantern fans out there.
I
We
like
just lost 1/3 of our audience.
Atrocitus is a cool character, and he enables a lot of cool, fun kits.
I
Um,
just don't like revive characters until they fix the mechanics of Wraith. I'm
well,
not a fan of revive characters.
I can see that being a thing. I don't personally use him for the revive. I personally use him for the damage and speed. of the enrage that he brings. And also like it forces your characters to use their basic attack, which is what
Yeah.
like a lot of, if you're on auto and your character like always uses their 3 or 2 first, then your strategy kind of negates itself sometimes, because like with my Supergirl Dr. Fate combo, I like require her to use her basic to get the
Agreed.
out of turn attack off with Dr. Fate. So
Yeah, and just to clarify, like going forward with raids, I think Atrocitus will continue to be a big asset. But in my regular PvP, I never use Atrocitus.
fair enough. Fair enough. But so we got the skins, but back to the value of the $25 pack. You get like all the XP meta agents, all the legendary essence, all that gear that is like hidden away in those milestones. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff in 70 different milestones that you get for just $25. Plus, it enables you to get to those upper echelon like packs at the very
Yeah, and I want to say, like, we were not paid by DC Legends to say this.
no.
It really just flat out is the best value in the game. I am not a whale by any standard, and the one thing I do buy in a month is the $5 packs for raids, and it is because I get so much back for what I'm spending.
Right.
Just best value in my opinion. I never buy character fragments unless it's just somebody I love. So
Right.
this is the one constant for me.
God, I wish I could get paid by WB with the amount of advertising that I, and the WROL boys do. Like, god dang, I'd be rich.
Yeah. And now a word from our sponsor, and then there's silence.
Reeves. No. So what was one more pro that we had?
Let's see. So, one of the pros that I felt like we talked about it a little bit before we started recording is I encountered some issues that we'll talk about in a second. But I felt like the response to those issues from the developers was very quick, and my issues were resolved in a pretty timely manner. Because we did have raids where they just went home for the weekend and you were just stuck with it. So I was glad to see them using those weekdays to actually respond to the issues. And like I said, we can get into that more in a second, but
maybe that's why they start on Wednesday, because
yeah,
it gives them time to work out some bugs or whatever. And I know that they had 2 months off and of these things, and they should have had all their bug fixes done and completed by now. But I mean, I guess sometimes you just can't know until it's in effect.
that's right.
So I'm good with what happened. Like I had a few like issues, but it was very few and far between, and it didn't happen very often. And like you said, the response to it was quick and it resolved itself almost.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy about that too. But let's get into cons.
Yeah. And
Right?
in fact, let me give a shout out to Joker, who helped me with some stuff, the moderator, because I really appreciated his help in getting some of my issues resolved that I know other people were facing too. So we'll give him an imaginary round of applause.
I'm like tapping my fingers together right now.
Okay, golf clap.
Yes. So let's talk about the cons.
Okay.
I feel like some of the previous raids, they self-sustained themselves. Like you would, if you needed alliance energy, you would go and do solo bosses, and if you needed solo energy, you would go and do alliance bosses, because they helped give those energy back to you. And they did like a little bit, but like in the previous raids, it almost felt like my energy wasn't depleting. But this one, I went from like 12 to 1300 energy to like 500 energy. Like it
Right.
did eat up my energy.
What was so interesting is I had guys who I guess had gotten locked out in the first day of the last raid. And so they had over 1,000 energy still left over from that raid. And they still weren't able to spend all the Alliance boss energy. But I definitely agree with what you're saying with the raid bosses, because I burned through my energy. I think that with about 5 hours to go, I was pretty much done with all my energy, and I didn't want to spend to buy more energy. Right. So I think you're right on the point of self-sustaining.
Yeah, it definitely ate through it. But my alliance energy really didn't deplete that much. But my solo energy, getting up to that 500 mil is like, it's rough, and there's a lot of energy necessary in it. I was worried I was going to run out. Honestly, I really was.
What, if people didn't get to play the first raid before, it was set up in a way where you almost didn't really have to keep spending, because the alliance bosses would feed the solo bosses, and the solo bosses would feed the alliance bosses, and you could just keep going and going. And then the other thing it was doing is it was also feeding you more of the PvE energy, so that you could keep farming energy for the other stuff, and you could just keep going. It was incredible.
Yeah, exactly. It was so easy to not have to spend money on it, and maybe that was why they changed it, because it was so self-sustaining.
Yeah, I think so.
But at the same time, like, people already hate raids as it is. Like, why take away something positive about it?
Yeah, I mean, I do understand, though. I mean, they have to make something on this new mode that they have in the game. So
True. But let's talk about something else. Let's talk about like how we only have 20 slots for bosses, right?
yeah,
And on that last day, it felt like every single human being that was playing this game was just sharing everything that they couldn't kill. Like,
yeah, I think my mom even shared one with me.
Jesus. Like, I had so many people, and I want to like curse at them and be like, but I'm gonna say bleep instead. We had a bunch of bleep holes that were sharing. They're like 68 bosses. They're like level 68 bosses that are very easy to kill on your own. You just need to ×5 the multiplier and take whatever your bonus tunes, and it will die. Easy. Like, it's not hard. And I was seeing them all, and they're like almost dead every time. And they're like, somebody else finish this off for me. It'll be great for you. And I'm like, no, it won't, because that doesn't give me any points. And you're just clogging up my feed. Like, just kill it yourself. It's not that hard.
This was one I when we were talking before, I did disagree with you on this one, because I am so short on green essence. I didn't mind if they were shared with me completely full or almost dead, because completely full, I was happy to take the points from them towards my totals, and almost dead, I only had to use a 1x multiplier to kill them off, and then I could farm some green essence. So I agree with you to an extent, but I also disagree with you a little bit, because toward the end, I really wanted to farm that stuff.
Well,
but I think they should up the number of slots.
Yes, absolutely. Or they should have like 2 sections where like this section is for people sharing bosses to you. This section is the bosses that you can collect yourself. Regardless, I don't really want them to touch raids again, because I agree with Loot a lot, where it's like, all right, let's get some other content out there that we can actually enjoy. Just leave raids where it's at.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I never got those like full bosses until like the last few hours of the last day, because at that point, some of my alliance mates who made it to 500 were like trying to help us out. They would like love tap a boss and barely touch it, so that way I could get the MVP or someone else could get the MVP, which was nice until like you share it to 10 people and then you're now competing for MVP.
Right.
So honestly, I like the idea of helping each other out, but I don't like the way that they do it, because it clogs up my ability to make it to. I got to 500 million 2.5 hours before it ended, and it felt like it was a race to me. Like, I was stressing out that I wasn't gonna make it, and that the last like 20 hours were for nothing, basically, because I really wanted those 5 rebirth crystals.
Did your eyes cross at all, or
No? Well, I probably had to put water drops in every now and again, but yeah, I spent a lot of hours playing, and every time I would go and farm bosses for myself, like I would get 4 bosses, and then I would go check to make sure that my list wasn't full now, because every time I left, 80 people would share their bosses with me, and I'd be at 20 again within a second. So
speaking of leaving, in the first couple days when the legendary bosses were really rare, one of my biggest frustrations is how I'd be in the game for a good long while and I wouldn't see any legendary bosses. Close out the game, come back a little bit later, why show me all the legendary bosses that I missed? Is that just like to rub it in my face that the moment I left, there they were?
I mean, maybe, but it also kind of makes it so that like if your feed is full, your 20 out of 20 is full, then no one can share with you now, right? So
Yeah.
while you're gone, the bosses that would have been shared with you now go to somebody else. Is my
By the way, this is just a random thought. One other feature I would like to see is a collect all button. Instead of making me collect each individual boss reward, a collect all button would be amazing.
It would be, but at the same time, they have that like graphic set up so like when you do collect it, it like takes you to a new screen where you see like here's all the points that you got from this one, and here's whether you got MVP or not, or Scout or Alliance or whatever. So like they can't mass do that. I probably
Well, it'd be like, because I would hit a boss like once and then leave, and then hit a boss once and leave. So I'd have about 10 or 15 on my screen that I would need to collect later. And those would be the ones that I would want to be able to just say collect all on the main boss list screen.
fair enough.
But I'm also like loot, like if it works, like I'm afraid to tell them to change anything.
Exactly. So am I. I don't need it to get all buggy again.
Yeah.
I think another con that we had was the fact that some on those last days, those legendary bosses were like so hard to kill. Like
Yeah.
they had so much. They had 300 million health, and on a good fight, I could put in 40 million. But sometimes RNG would suck, and I'd only get 19 million in. So like, in order to guarantee MVP for me, I'd have to hit that thing 4 times, and like that's just not an efficient energy use. It's not an efficient
It's
time use.
exactly right.
And I'm like, I feel like it's too difficult of a legendary boss, especially if you're going for that. You basically have to sacrifice the MVP award and just like hit it once and share it to everybody and hope it dies on its own.
Yeah. And this is where, like, not to go back to the sharing, but this is where, like, they could improve upon the alliance aspect of the legendary bosses, because it seems like the alliance should collectively get a chance to hit that legendary boss before it shares out to the community, because then it just suddenly becomes a rush to, um, it just becomes a rush to kill the boss before somebody steals your MVP, and that's frustrating when you put in
Right.
3 fights to a legendary boss, and here comes somebody to scoop it up.
Exactly. It's frustrating, it's stressful, and you're just like, I don't have the mental capacity at this point in this grind to really care about this. So I'm just gonna leave those like the I think the last day was the 150 level legendary boss, and I was just like, I don't need to deal with you. I'm gonna just farm up those 90s, those 68s, the ones that I
Mhm.
can one shot on my own, and that's how I'm gonna get my points. And it's how I did get my
Yeah.
points. Um, do you want to talk about the bug that you went through?
Yeah, so we wanted to just do something quick with the bugs. So on the second day, when it was very easy to kill the boss, and because some of my members had such a high stock of energy, they were already 5xing some of the bosses to clear them out as fast as possible. And what would happen sometimes is if you didn't know somebody was in there working that quick, you might get into a match, and before you could get a hit on the boss would be dead. And so what happened with me is the game thought I had helped to beat the boss, and so distributed my reward to me, or at least attempted to distribute my reward. So when I hit the claim rewards button, I would get an error because I didn't actually fight the boss, even though I was there. And it would not let me collect the reward, and I would just get an error every time. And because I couldn't collect the reward, I couldn't spawn a new alliance boss. So for a day, and luckily it was one of the early days, I couldn't spawn a new boss. So I was stuck.
That's pretty annoying. I'm not happy that you went through that, but I'm glad it was only temporary, right?
Yeah, I felt so helpless because, like as an alliance leader, I want to be there fighting alongside everyone. And so if I'm just standing on the sidelines, I felt quite helpless.
I feel that. It's pretty annoying. Whatchamacallit? Did you experience any like out of sync errors as well?
I had a few times I got the out of sync bug, but it wasn't anywhere near what it had been in other raids.
Okay, good. Yeah, I agree with you. Like I had one or two, but it wasn't like every 10 seconds like it had been previously, and it wasn't like whatchamacallit. It wasn't where you used to like pick up a boss, right? It's like Pokemon Go. You pick up a boss and then it like ended on you, or like it quit the game or whatever. Like the bugs were not consistent. They were few and far between. They were resolved easily. There
My
was
metric,
one thing that I got pretty annoyed with, and that was you said it best earlier, the stare down with your boss, where you're like you'd enter the fight, you'd hit him like once, and then like no
you have
one
a
would
staring
attack each other.
contest. Yeah, that one was frustrating.
No, it sounds
I was
frustrating.
gonna say my metric for this is, because I'm sure everybody's done this. You have a team that you're using to fight one boss, and then you'll go in to fight the alliance boss, and you forget to change out your team,
Oh,
and then you end up saying, "Well, forget this. I'm just gonna exit out," and you waste the energy. And so my metric is, if I wasted more energy than the game did, then it's a good raid because it means the bugs were limited. And I would say I ended up screwing up more than the game did and putting in the wrong people and wasting my energy.
yeah, I did that twice because like when I was trying to farm legendary essence and get bosses at the same time, and I would accidentally like go and hit fight now, and I would accidentally use my team that I was farming legendary essence with to fight the boss, and they weren't bonus tunes, and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? And
Yeah,
so that was really annoying. But other than that, I didn't really feel like there were many bugs.
I agree. I think overall it was a vast improvement over a lot of the other raids.
Good, good.
And this is from a guy who got locked out for a day.
True. That's true. So, do you think we should wrap this up?
I think we should.
Okay. Well, anyone who is still listening this far, thank you for coming and joining us. We do, both Bizarro and I have our own YouTube channels where we discuss the game and specific ways of the game. So check those out if you haven't already at Tewtytron or Bizarro. Yours is just Bizarro, right?
It's Bizarro style.
Style, that's it.
BS.
Yeah, yours is more pod-like. Mine is like more YouTube-esque. So whatever floats your guys' boat. Thanks for joining us today. Have a good one.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of WROL Broadcast. If you like the show, consider becoming a patron. Just go to patreon.com/WROL Broadcast. And also check out our store at teespring.com/store/WROL Broadcast. And now I'm off to the land of the Merska area.
Princess of Themyscira. That was easy. Easy peasy mac and cheesy.